So I prefer closings on Wednesdays, Thursdays, or Fridays, but Wednesdays and Thursdays. Now that's a little hard to judge sometimes because we write our contracts for 45 days from acceptance. And you never know how long the thing is gonna take. But you could totally calculate it once you open escrow and go, oops, escrow's falling on a Monday, I don't wanna do that. And you write an addendum and an amendment and you ask for closing to be moved to the following Wednesday. Just move it by 2 days. And you can explain why. We don't want the funds. You know, the client doesn't want to pay for the interest, the extra interest for the weekend. Now they're going to pay the interest from Monday to Wednesday anyway, so there's always 2 days of interest, but you don't need to make it 3 or 4.
Can you give me an idea of how much that could cost?
No.
Like how much interest are they being charged? Like 3%?
Depends if it's like
Change?
$40 million property.
So, have you taken a Paragon class?
Yeah.
Okay, you know in the Paragon where there's the financial button?
Yeah.
Okay, if you go to the financial button and go to the top of the middle column and just put in $100,000 at 4.5%, and you say calculate, and now you look at the report.
Okay.
The report will give you the amortization schedule and tell you exactly what the interest is per month on the first month, which is really high, right?
But you're only paying for 3 days.
Right, so you take that interest and divide by 30,
Right.
and that's your daily interest rate.
Okay.
So it could be $50, it could be $100 a day, depending on how big this mortgage is.
Yeah.
And now you're paying $300
Right.
For no reason.
for no
Because
reason.
your closing
right?
date wasn't appropriately
Yeah.
placed. Got
Right.
it.
Okay, home warranty, we really don't do home warranties. We don't have anybody doing home warranties right now, so
Why?
it's a losing proposition, or it was here. So they stopped. American Home Shield left the island, so we don't have an insurer for that. It wasn't very popular here anyway, so it's okay. Repair limits, focus on the items the buyer is most interested in repairing. Bear in mind that law regulates how much money the seller can give to the buyer. Explain the limits to your buyer. We went over that a little bit yesterday in the finance class, right? That you can use 3% and say $5,000 credit, whatever. The point is that we don't do this at this point, right? The only time you do this is when you call the seller and the seller's agent says, oh yeah, and the seller is going to be repairing the garage door. The garage door isn't functioning properly. He's replacing the garage door opening mechanism, and we'll be getting new remotes. Okay, great. Question is, do you build that into your contract? Or do you wait until you see if there's other things that need to be done and negotiate it later?
I would build it in.
Always tie your camel, right? That's that wonderful saying, trust in God, but tie your camel. So this one, the seller has already volunteered it. Tie him down.
Right.
Put it right in the contract. The seller has agreed to do this. So you say seller shall replace garage door mechanism
Yeah.
by
At cost.
final walkthrough.
At cost to seller.
That's pretty obvious, but if you wanted to add that, couldn't hurt.
Right.
Absolutely. So, you wanna, but other than that, you don't know what other repairs to deal with yet, right? Cause we do that at the end of J1. All right, who's, Riley, you're doing special clauses?
Sure. Special clauses or contingencies, these are special conditions that must be met in order for the contract to close, such as a satisfactory inspection report or the buyer obtaining funding. Carefully write any special clauses or contingencies your buyer would like to include in the offer, which is exactly what you just talked about.
Yeah. So, the basic rule for writing clauses is what has to happen, who's responsible, what happens if it doesn't happen. In the event that the buyer or the seller does not replace the garage door prior to seller shall credit buyer $1,000 at closing. Now, if you don't do that, your J4 is kind of the catch-all for if the seller doesn't do what the seller agreed to prepare. And then in J4, you have the opportunity to ask for a credit and withhold funds, right? However, that gets a little dicey because escrow can't really help you that close. It's gonna delay your closing. If you've written your closing to be too short, there's no time for escrow to hold those funds. So it gets a little tricky, which is why I recommend a longer closing period, right? Like write your contract so that you have an 8-day closing period.
So question, if we're all competitors, how does it work if your broker hypothetically is also doing business?
Your broker knows how to limit what they say and what they disclose.
Okay.
So you're saying that if you are showing property and how you don't want your broker to know, or you're writing an offer on a property and you don't want your broker to know because your broker is your competitor?
Well, like, yeah, cause like if I'm just saying like the hypothetical situation, cause I was kind of in this situation at my old brokerage, where the principal broker was also actively doing business, but yet was also functioning as my quote-unquote coach and trainer. So that seems like,
Well, I'm your competitor.
right?
So is Michelle. So is Lisa, for that matter. Lisa does transactions. She just hires other people to do them for her. Yeah, can you imagine Lisa has
Wow.
time to run her own transactions? I don't think so. So we're all competitors, we're all in that boat. The difference is your reviewing broker. At the point that you're submitting an offer for your
Right.
broker to review, it's your reviewing broker who's gonna know the property at hand, right? Is that broker gonna run out and quickly tell their client, oh my God, there's this house? No, you know about, if you're looking that actively for a client, your broker knew that at the same time you did. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
So at the point where you're writing an offer is a little late. I'm telling you not to tell each other that you're showing property or what property you're taking your client to today, when it's totally open and free and clear, and you don't know a lot about these people. Our brokers know that I can't really use that information. I'm not gonna suddenly call my client and pounce in and do that. And if I did, I'd have to go to another broker and say, you need to take over working with Riley because I've got a competitive offer going in.
Oh, okay,
So I can no longer work with you because we're now in dual agency
right.
as buyer agents. So I need to give your broker review to somebody else.
Since you just kind of brought that up, on the assumption we're all new and we're most likely going to be sitting in other KW people's homes, can you just highlight anything that changes based on how we offer and how we position ourselves on the basis that we'd be dealing with dual agency? Is there anything that's...
No, I'm not sure what your question is. Tell me what your...
Is there anything around like the questions we can ask around asking price or how we tell our clients we're going to negotiate on their behalf? Does anything change?
No,
on
nothing
the
changes
basis?
other than you must disclose you're in dual agency. So if you haven't gotten that dual agency script from me, let me know and I will email you all this dual agents, my open house dual agency script.
I like it.
So
And so that's the only thing you're obligated to do. And then you wanna find out from the listing agent, who's your broker? And if you find out that your broker is the same as the listing agent's broker, you need to call your broker and say, I'm writing an offer on something and it's the same, we're the same broker, so who else should I go to? And they say, go call Marion. And you work with Marion on this particular transaction, because the listing agent is already working with your broker.
Oh,
So
that
you're
makes
the one who
sense.
needs to find a new broker.
So do you have to disclose, I'm just curious, in that situation, I'm assuming that you also have to disclose that the listing agent broker and your broker are the same broker.
They're not, I just told you to go to another broker.
What about in the event, so I know of a transaction where that happened, where it was the same broker and.
Well, in a single broker agency, that always happens.
Right,
So is that possible? Yes, and
Okay.
as a broker, that's what we take on, is knowing how to not disclose confidential information from one party to the other.
right,
We are obligated to do that,
right,
to keep that confidentiality.
right.
But we don't have that issue here because we've got we've got a Lisa,
We
we've got a.
encourage
Right, yeah.
further separation by requiring separate brokers.
Right.
Cool.
Thank you.
It's more simple.
All right, so it's your turn, buyer offer objections. Let's take a look here at some role playing. So if you wanna pair up, two of you pair up, Elton, you turn around, you guys pair up, and you and I are gonna pair up. And so let's read these to each other and see if we have any questions.
Hey.
You go. All right.
Miss Bio,
Yeah.
until you have physical inspection.
Okay, you want me to read this?
Sure.
Corey.
Alright, I'm ready.
Mr. Meyer, until you have a physical
Consequently, you have three
Inspection.
choices.
I'm sorry,
One, you can offer the seller less money.
Okay, so I'm just trying to make sure I'm
now
just storing
for
from what I'm supposed
these
to.
items.
Okay, so this is when the
Two,
buyer
you
wants
can ask
the
the
seller to
seller
make a payment, so
now
that's
for
it.
credit to repair these items.
Mr. and Mrs. Buyer, until you have
Alright.
physical inspection, we will not know how much these
I
items will
usually
cost,
advise
and we can
clients
find
to
additional
make
things we may want to
physical
negotiate.
inspection and
Consequently, you have three
negotiate
choices.
repair items
One,
one time.
You can offer the seller less money now to
Measure.
compensate for these items. Two, you can ask the seller now for credit to repair these items using your own contractor.
Don't you see how
Three,
valuable that
or
is?
Yeah.
I usually advise clients to wait for the physical inspection and negotiate all of their items at once.
Now, what they are gonna say.
How would you like me to
You have
negotiate
three
this
choices.
offer?
They don't know how to
You can
negotiate.
offer the seller less money now to compensate for these items. You can
Yeah.
ask the seller
Now-
now for a credit
It's a
for
50-50,
repair
whether
these
you
items
should
using your
do
own
this now
contractor.
or wait until the inspection.
Or-
So you would,
I
you're not
think
gonna
it's
get
advice
Someone has no
both of you
obligation.
choose, but
to
ultimately,
And
get
go
through
through
it.
all of your items.
The
If I'm
seller
the
has no
buyer,
obligation
I'm
to
actually-
make
Like
any
you to
repairs.
negotiate this
I
offer.
hate the idea of
So,
negotiating with theirs,
Uh,
right? Because then people are, they're getting so
If this
into
house
the
has a
details
lot
of
of
the
just
weeds,
right.
like, oh, I'm
I'm
gonna
gonna
buy
do
a
that
hippie,
shit.
you know,
It's
that's the,
hard, it's a hard call.
versus, you
That's
know
what
what?
I'm trying to say.
Plus
It's
50
not
grand
all
for
in
the
the
bathroom,
offer.
I'm taking 15 grand off,
Alright.
that's just,
With
that's what I would
When
do,
buyer
I would
wants
just
to make a
offer
low
less,
offer,
right?
Mr. and Mrs.
But
Buyer, there are
Mrs.
three
Buyer,
ways
they're-
to
they're
negotiate
basically
a
negotiating
transaction.
transaction.
You can make
I
a
don't know
low
what that
offer
applies
on
in
the
books,
risk of the
but
seller
this is
rejecting
there's
it,
an house here
countering
in
back at
Hawaii,
full price
there's three people looking at it, she lost the house.
You
You can make an offer closer to the asking price and be less flexible if there's a counter.
Okay, when the buyer wants to make
Or
a
if you
low offer.
really want the home and are concerned that another buyer may purchase it, you can make a full price offer and give the
Okay,
seller what they
Mr.
want.
and Mrs. Buyer,
I
there
like
are
that
three
phrase,
ways
because
to
they
negotiate
do
a
that.
transaction.
Yeah, it's kinda like.
One, you can
Sounds
make
like-
a low offer
right,
and run the rest of the
but,
seller
on the other hand,
rejecting
it's a
it,
win-win,
or
but,
countering back at
It's
full
really
price
about
to
market
compensate.
here and have you
Two,
educated
you
your
can make an
clients,
offer
right?
closer to the asking
About
price.
what the
And
market
be
is,
less
and
flexible
so they're
if
gonna
there
say to
is
you
a
again,
counter
well,
Let's do
offer.
a full price, cause they have.
On the other hand, there are
Really
people
want
who
this
just
home
believe
and
in
are
low offers.
concerned that
Yeah.
another buyer
Just
may
right
purchase
across.
it, you can make a
Right,
full
let's do
price
that.
offer.
And that's
And
buyer's
give the
fee
seller
or the
what they want,
buyer's
it's your
fee?
choice, how would you like me to negotiate
And
this
so
offer?
they
That's-
wanna go that way
That's good.
anyway.
That's good.
This is
So you do
the
your best,
toughest-
and then you do
It's
what
the
they
toughest
say.
thing about this business for me is all these two.
Yeah,
things.
in
If I
this
sit there
market,
and
I don't
think,
think that's going to
okay,
fly.
I'm a realtor, right? I'm
So
supposed to
you
have
wanna
this
go that
skill,
low?
I'm supposed to
Would
provide
you
this
like to go a
value.
little higher, or
And
maybe a
like,
little
when
less?
I rely on something like client, whether it's the listing or the, you know, the buyer, then like, we're, you know, we're combative
try that.
against the
Yes,
other.
for sure,
So like,
yeah.
to me, like, this idea of.
Now I wanna make sure that I've
like,
shown you the CMA,
I'm supposed to be
right,
fighting
so
for
that
them,
you
and it just,
understand
it
this is
bothers
what
me
things are going
to
for,
ever
and
think
you
that
wanna
I'm paying
offer
something price, but
$20,000
it just, I can't do it.
then whatever
Like,
you
I
else is
just-
going.
I
It's-
get it, I
Or would you like
negotiated
it like to come a
a
little closer to what the
discount
market is
on a
doing?
broken cookie at
So I'm making
Panera
it
Bread
pretty
one
obvious,
day.
right?
I went to the
That-
counter, the cookie was broken, and there was
This is
a
where the
dollar
market's at.
cookie.
Are you sure
And I
you
said,
wanna
this
go
cookie's
this low?
broken, can I get a
And if
discount?
they
Yeah,
got
that's the
And they
picture
were like,
that-
grab a cookie from another
Cause then they
counter.
can see.
Here you go.
So in instances
Okay.
like that, and
I
they
love the
can go
philosophy,
low,
don't ask, don't get.
Right.
So we're just talking about this number 2, right? And you do your best to, tell people the options here, right? So, one of the things supposedly you've done is given them a CMA, so that you said, looks to me like the market is at, you know, 520, and you wanna offer 480. Are you sure you wanna go that far below market? Because this is in good shape, this has been recently renovated, everything would indicate that they can expect somewhere around their asking price. Are you sure you wanna go this low? Yeah, I believe in, let's see if we can get a deal. You never know, they could be desperate to sell.
So it's kinda like when we read through these, what I kinda got is it's like, instead of thinking like we're the general and they're the officers, it's kind of like they're the general and we're the officer. So like we're giving them, they give us direction on how they want us to move. Does that make sense?
So I'm not comfortable with the analogy. I wouldn't look at it that way. Your clients are looking to you for advice
Right.
and consultation. And they want your experience. That's what I'm paying. I mean, I'm assuming, that's why I'm working with a professional, is because I want your advice.
Right.
So, they're gonna want you to have an opinion. They're gonna want you to have an opinion about whether to negotiate the repairs up front or to wait until the inspection period, right?
So in your experience as new agents, we don't have a lot of experience necessarily.
That's
right?
why you're in these classes, because we're trying to teach you what to say here.
Right.
So you could literally just leave it at that, and the only thing I was suggesting is that if they're going $40,000 under, that you could try again, right? Here are the 3 things you could do. And they go, no, I wanna stick with it. Now, I might say, now the asking price is $520, our CMA says $520 is about the right price here, that's what's happening in the market. Are you sure you wanna go $40,000? I'm just
Right.
double checking, are you sure you wanna go that far down?
So use these tools and scripts that you're giving
That's
us
correct.
to give us the confidence
Yeah,
and to fake it until we make it.
that's correct. You got no other choice, because in the moment you can't say, well, let me ask my broker. Right? You can't do that.
Mhm.
You're the one who's gonna get paid, you wanna be out there. Get to know the market, get comfortable with pricing so that you can have this conversation.
Right.
So, what we were talking about on the repair item is, that's not a slam dunk either. The seller does not have to make repairs at the end of J1, do they? No. So if something is bothering these people up front, and they go like, we're gonna move in and that back fence gate doesn't work and our dog's gonna get out. This doesn't work, we need that fence, that gate to be repaired. Okay, let's put it in the contract. Does asking for the gate to be repaired prevent you from asking for more things at the end of J1 when your inspection report tells you there's really 4 more things we need to ask for? No, it doesn't. Could the seller say, well, I already told you I'd repair the gate? It doesn't change the fact that these other things are also in disrepair, and you didn't tell me those. Right? So, it's a tough call. So I'm not sure I'd wait. I'm learning more and more to tie my camel.
So is that like a strategy then to use, like when you get the listing agent, they're like, yeah, I'm not gonna make an offer and then I'll give you the seller disclosure? Could you just be like, look, whatever is in the disclosure is gonna
Who
come out?
are you representing?
Buyer.
Okay, so,
So seller,
no, it's not about the seller's disclosure, so much as it is about the buyer's inspection. The
okay.
buyer's inspection is gonna discover for you that there's
Everything.
repairs that the seller doesn't even know about. And,
Right.
there's safety issues, like, is the seller gonna tell you that there's no GFCI plugs in the house? No, they're not gonna tell you that in the seller's disclosure, but your home inspector will.
Right.
And now you're gonna require that all kitchen and bathroom plugs be replaced with GFCI outlets for safety reasons. And that listing agent is gonna recommend to the seller, you better do that.
Is that the third problem?
That's that button you can push, that red button in the
Ah,
plug,
thank you.
right? They have their own
Every
off and
step.
on switch. If you drop your hairdryer in the water, you won't get electrocuted.
To that end, I forget, is there a timeline on disclosing things? Like if there are plumbing issues, but they happened 8 years ago, but the statute of limitations.
So let me ask you
the statute of
something.
limitations.
If you were buying a house
Uh-huh.
today, Would you like to know that the house had plumbing issues 8 years ago and how they were fixed?
Right,
Yep.
yes,
Would you like to know?
yes. But is there a
No, excuse
statute of
me.
limitations on disclosing?
No.
Okay.
Not in our.
But that's
state.
not what you were asking me. Those are two different things, right? Is there a statute of limitations on the seller's disclosures liability for what they disclose?
Right.
I actually don't know the answer to that, and I think it varies by state, and I don't know that answer.
Okay.
That's a great question.
Yeah.
What I was getting at is in filling out the seller's disclosure, should the seller disclose that they had?
Absolutely.
Yes. Yeah, you should tell them that you had the roof repaired 20 years ago.
Right.
There was a leak 20 years ago, you need to disclose it, yeah.
So, the lady that bought my house in Colorado, when she made the offer, which was considerably lower than our asking price, but the house is out on the market, I don't know, a year. She had a whole list of things that needed repairing and updating and whatever. So she justified the lower price and we accepted it. Is that done here at all, that kind of
Depends
thing?
on the market,
What's that?
depends on the market.
Oh.
In this market, you will notice that a lot of listings say as is addendum is, please include, right?
Okay.
Well, in a buyer's market, you're not gonna get as is addenda. So it depends totally on the market,
Okay.
yeah. So yes, we do,
Uh-huh.
in a buyer's market.
And it was a buyer's market, it was in.
There you go, there's your answer.
Back in
Yep.
2000, well,
There's your answer.
2003, yeah, 2003 it sold, yeah.
Oh, there's another script here, let's do this one together. Present the offer to the, oh, is that a script?
The little
I'm now on
script.
18, it says present the offer to the listing agent. So the first thing is call the listing agent immediately to let him know an offer's coming, absolutely. Right, you've already called them and told them you're preparing one, now you just need to text them or call them and say, okay, I just sent it to you. Don't invite them into E-Edge, request a reply within the shortest amount of time your market will allow. So that's how long is this offer good for, right?
Why
How-
is that there using the edge?
Because we used to have everything in E-Edge, we're now moving to Command, and
Oh.
E-Edge is no longer our system.
So we can just.
And, we as a market center never used E-Edge that way.
Is it 3 days they have to reply? Is that the time limit to the offer?
What did you write in the contract?
Oh, yeah, that's.
It's
There's
totally up
the
to you.
best.
So do you think that's a strategic question?
Yeah, definitely.
So how would it vary? When would you ask for, let's say, 24 hours? Would you ever do that?
Yeah.
If you had multiple offers. No.
Try that. You're the buyer's agent and you're presenting me with an offer and I'm the listing agent. And you say, and you know I've got other offers. And you're gonna say, I'm gonna say, you made this offer due in 24 hours. I'm not answering you in 24 hours because I'm looking at all the offers on Thursday. So would you like to give me an extension or do you wanna let the contract expire? What would you like to do?
I'll give you an extension.
Okay, thank you. See, so that one. However, I just came on market today and it's a great property and a good price and you bring me a full priced offer and I haven't even shown it yet. I haven't even had a moment to breathe. And you bring me a full price offer and you say, we'd like an answer tonight by 9 p.m.
Oh, okay, that makes sense.
Did you get that?
Yeah.
Now, the agent knows what you're doing, and the agent's gonna try to convince the seller to not accept and to
Right.
hold off to see if there's other interest. The seller, however, is gonna go, yippee, that's the price we wanted, and oh my God, there's a great offer, let's go for it.
Yeah.
And they're gonna take that pressure and potentially accept. I have seen it, by the way, where what I thought was a pretty hot property, the agent allowed the seller to accept the offer, and I'm like, oh my God, you can't do that, right? And then the seller lost, that fell out of escrow very quickly. No other offers on the property. So it could happen, right? That you don't get any other offers. We don't have any guarantee. So normal is 48 hours, but that's a question I've got on my list, which is your seller available to review the contract? Oh no, my seller's on a sailboat. He's not gonna be available for 3 days, or whatever, right?
Yeah.
So you wanna make sure that the seller can review the contract in a certain time frame. And otherwise, 2 or 3 days is not gonna make or break. If it's a multiple offer situation, that listing agent is already, like now, let's say an offer came in, now I'm gonna ask you, when are you responding by? Well, it's due tomorrow. Can you, okay, I'll get you an offer by the end of the day. Will you wait for us? And then end of day comes and my client can't make up their mind, can't sign, so I have to call them back and say, okay, I need until tomorrow morning. I will get you an offer by tomorrow morning. And then I deliver an offer in the morning, and now they've got 2 offers to consider, right? So that's when my buyer's under a lot of pressure because now there is an offer in, and it's only one. There's none other expected, and they wanna honor that deadline. So I gotta go with that. Right? Back to, you talk to the listing agent and see what's going on. Yeah, awesome, okay. So, yeah, here's the script. Mr. and Mrs. Buyer, by countering, the seller has essentially just sold you the home, right? If you sign a counteroffer, you're in contract. If you get a counteroffer from the seller and your client signs it, that's it, done. So can they withdraw a counteroffer, however, while you're thinking about signing it?
Yes.
Yeah, they can do that. So, if you now want to counter a counter, you're leaving the transaction open, right? You're leaving it up to the seller to go talk to somebody else or to go, no, I'm not, no, right? You're just delaying. So depends on the market again and how hot this property is as to whether, is $5,000 really gonna make or break this?
So when you're countering a counteroffer, that means the deal is still open to the public, so anyone could
Yep.
write an offer.
Still shows as active,
Okay.
yeah,
Thank
you
you.
bet.
I know of a deal where, it was a couple in Kula.
So you know what, can I stop you,
Sure.
because we're running so
Okay.
behind. We need to go, thank you. All right, if you're representing the seller, when a buyer makes an offer, your client's property, there are 4 actions. You receive the offer, you gather information about the buyer, because will that help your seller make decisions, right? You present the offer to your client and respond to the offer. So, receiving the offer, pretty clear. Just please acknowledge, right? You just want to email back and say, I got it, thanks a lot. Appreciate it. But you might want to know, how long has the buyer been looking? In other words, how serious is this buyer about this offer? They just started. Is that a good sign?
No.
No, it's not, is it? If they just started looking and they're buying the second house they saw, or now those are the kind of buyers that continue to look while they're in escrow with you. They still have a foot out the door,
Oh,
right?
no.
And it happens. You'll
Yeah.
notice that you'll get buyers like that.
Uh-huh.
Sometimes in order to get a buyer to bring their foot in, I take them out and show them property. I go, you have got the house that's right for you. Let's go look at some other properties, right? And then sometimes you go like, iffy here. They could cancel because it's not the perfect house for them. They're just settling. So it all sorts of stuff happens, right? Yeah. Sure, you bet. Come on in. So have you been pre-approved, but have they been well, you know that. They would give you you're gonna get the letter with the offer, or you're not gonna get a letter with the offer. You're gonna know whether they have anything to sell from the offer. It says right in the offer, right? If there's a contingency on the sale of something. If they're from out of town, why are they moving to this area? Well, we don't usually ask that question, do we?
Now we're now.
Kind of self-evident, right? Why did they select this particular property? That is a great question. What is it that they like about this property, right? What can you tell me, what appealed to them? So that, now, if this is a good buyer's agent, you're gonna get a letter, and hopefully the letter says, the cover email says, my buyers love the backyard, they have 3 dogs and they can't wait for their dogs to have that amount of space to roam in, or they love to garden and they really appreciate the garden that the sellers have already put in place and they can't wait to continue to nurture it. And right, we write these kinds of wonderfully flattering cover letters to make a seller choose us. Does that work?
Yes.
Yes,
Absolutely.
absolutely. You will get a house for a lower price based on a good cover letter as opposed to just sending it without any kind of comment,
But-
right? People care.
How do you protect your buyer and at the same time from sharing too much information that could be used against them in a counteroffer?
I can't think of any information that I would share that would be used against me in a counteroffer. I would, however, suggest that you not steer the seller. And steering refers to fair housing rules. And you cannot make a big deal about the fact that, oh, we have 2 children and we can't wait to raise our children here. I mean, we get letters with pictures of the family. And here's this nice white, blonde, blue-eyed family. And then we have another set of buyers, and it's a black couple, right? Now we've got family and race being played in this card. As a broker, I would tell you to reject the letter and send it back and say, I'm terribly sorry, we have other offers, we cannot accept these letters, either one of them, because they are violating fair housing rules, or put the seller into potentially violating fair housing rules. So flatter the seller. Talk about the property and what they love about the property and anything they can that way. And yes, we look forward to having many years here. Right? Chances are the listing agent was there when they showed the property. They know there's 2 little kids. They're gonna tell the seller, but don't make it in your letter. I can't imagine there's anything that you're gonna say in a cover letter, like what? We have $1 million in the bank, so we can totally afford this, but I'm only offering you $550,000. We are not gonna do that, right? We're not gonna disclose anything.
So saying even though you shared with them that you absolutely love the property, they look forward to living there, doesn't that suggest urgency in some way? That then you can be like, okay, well, these people absolutely love this property, they're not gonna wanna lose it, let's bring them up another $10,000.
Yeah, well, I'm not paying you $10,000 more just because I love it. I'm not paying overpriced. No, I want you to feel attached to me. I want you to feel that I'm a real person, that I really care about the hot property that you loved and you've cared for, that I'm gonna continue your legacy, that and that you feel good about who you're selling your property to. That's what I'm trying to achieve. And it's not about, so people say don't walk into the house and start going, oh my God, this is it, I want it, I love it, right? And because now the listing agent's gonna say to the seller, oh my God, did they love it?
Right.
They love this house. That's different from a letter that says, we love your property and look forward to many years there. Do you see the difference? You don't.
Yes and no.
Yeah, it's a big deal when you can say they uncensored went nuts over this property. They love this property.
Right.
Versus I got a very nice, properly written letter that said they really like the property and can't wait to spend many years here.
Right, okay.
Very different, right, in
Yeah.
urgency. Yeah. So I do counsel people, especially people who are very effusive, right? Like,
Right.
if the listing agent is present, just keep your comments calm, and then we can get excited when we get back in the car.
Right.
Right, I like that.
Yeah. I'm pretty bad at that, by the way.
I know, I'll be the one getting excited.
Here's a question, how did they come up with their offer price? Well, what's the answer to that? It's the fair market value. We did our CMA, we've looked at a lot of properties, we feel this is a very fair price, right? However, it could also be like, this is a little low, how'd you come up with this price? It is absolutely the top of what these buyers can afford. Totally, absolutely at the top. And they are begging you to consider them because they love this property. And they're gonna take really good care of it. So now you really pour it on in the cover letter, right? Okay, pour it on. But other than that, there's not much difference here that I think you could come up with. Have they made offers on any of their properties? If so, what happened on those negotiations? Could be valuable, right, on behalf of your seller. So, checklist for reviewing, making sure the address is right, of course the price, the earnest money deposit, time for acceptance, making sure that you know you got 2 days or 3 days or whatever it is to respond here. Making sure you got the pre-approval letter, what are the, lending situations and timelines. Closing date, is there a home warranty? It's a big thing on the mainland, it just never was here. Conveyances, in other words, did they check all the right boxes, right? Because we've already put it on the market. And now repair requests, is there anything in section Q, right? Is there anything specific here? So we don't do mold disclosures up front, and we don't do seller's disclosure up front. All of that's gonna be part of your J1 inspection period. And then when do they wanna close? And have the client review that. So the only thing I can add here is if you do have multiple offers, I tend to put these things or the key items on a spreadsheet so people can see these people are offering you this much, here's the closing date, here's how much they're putting down, here's the kind of loan they're getting, right? And anything else. And that way people can kind of see the offers that they're reviewing. Makes it a little easier for people, because otherwise you're thumbing through 3 documents and it's confusing even to me. Like, I can't keep 3 offers straight, forget that. So 5 offers, even more, put them on a spreadsheet. Okay, presenting the offer to your client. This is actually really cool. Obviously, first call your client, let them know you have an offer to present, inform them of the offer price. That's what they want to know. How much is it for? It's the first thing they're going to ask you, right? So they go, well, that's low. It's true, but it's a good offer otherwise, and I'd like to come and chat with you about it and see how we want to respond. Okay. If possible, present the offer to your client in person. Absolutely. And if they are on the mainland, get them both on the phone, both parties at the same time, right? If you got to wait till the evening, whatever, and make sure they can have a PDF of the contract open, so that you can all go through it together and present it to them and ask any questions. And send them if it's multiple offers, sending them the spreadsheet. Keep the tone of the conversation as positive as possible at all times. Don't criticize the buyer, their agent, or their offer. So while this offer's terrible, this is a low ball offer. Well, it's true, but it is an offer and we do need to respond. And it's great, it's good to have activity, it's better that we should get offers and reject them than not get any at all, wouldn't you agree? Well, yeah, I guess so, but I'd really like a better offer than that. Okay, well then how about we negotiate? As opposed to just rejecting it, why not negotiate this one? See how, some people just make a low ball offer because somebody taught them somewhere that they should always make a low ball offer, because you never know. And so they just do it out of low ball offer, I bet you. Google is, okay.
So your whole job in the process is really just to keep everybody moving towards the same goal of closure, right? And all of this language is just, you're facilitating making sure we stay on track. Is that a fair statement?
No, because I represent the buyer. So if we were a transaction state, that would be my goal, but it is not. I am an agent for my client, and I must do what my client wants. That's why obedience is part of our fiduciary duty, right? So if my client says, no, I don't want to negotiate that. Really? You sure? Okay. Then we can just reject it. So please sign page 14 and, we'll hit the reject button. I get you. Let's see what happens. Because sometimes a rejection just simply says, I'm not talking to you at that low price. You want to come back with a better price, right? Like I did with that condo I just sold. And the agent said to me, she said, why? I go, well, we're not willing to negotiate at that price offer. She goes, okay, and so it went somewhere else.
So why did you hit reject and not just counter with a full price offer?
Because people don't want to do that. it's just like, why should I write a counteroffer when you've written this lowball offer? And in some instances, you can. My client didn't want to because we already also would have had to change the timing and whatnot. And she just said, this is too much, too fast, and it's not attractive enough. I don't even want to go there.
Okay.
So,
Cause there's work on a counter offer, right? I mean,
Pardon?
There's work you have to do on a counter offer.
Well,
It alters your whole timeline and everything.
you have to write it up, and then I have to send it to her, and she has to sign it and approve it, and now you're in that negotiation. And she was happy just to keep it on the market for a little while, see if we got any other offers. It was a low ball offer.
Right.
I wasn't that crazy about it, and I don't need to negotiate with you. I'm gonna see what else I can get here. And that's what rejection communicates.
So, you were talking about obedience. Do you still offer your opinion even though they stated they want a certain way?
Absolutely,
Okay.
like I
Cool.
showed you before, right? Are
Yeah.
you sure you wanna go that
Yeah.
low? Let me just
It's the five.
emphasize again.
And still be obedient.
My job is I have to share my expertise with you, right? I have to provide you reasonable care, and reasonable care is another element of fiduciary duty, means at the level of a professional, the care that is expected of me as a professional. And that means I have to guide you, here's the price, and are you sure you wanna go that low? I just wanna double check with you, it's pretty low, and we can probably expect that this will not get accepted. Is that okay with you? That's my job, right? And then he goes, yep, that's what I wanna do, okay, let's go, I'll do it. And now you just gotta get behind that 100%, you can't walk away and go, God damn client, right? Not that we don't, but you wanna catch yourself as much as possible. Your job is to represent the client, and that means ultimately obedience.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay.
What I hear a lot is, they don't wanna offend the seller, like with too low of an offer. Like, is that?
That's a great point, yes, thank you. So what they're referring to is, here's one of the things that could happen when you make a lowball offer, is that sellers become offended. And imagine yourself, you've owned this property for 20 years, you've come here and for 20 years, for 6 months out of the year, and you've taken good care of it, and you've loved it here, and you want somebody to take it on that loves it as well. And you take a look at the market and you put a fair price on it. And now you come along and put a lowball offer. And that's an insult, right? Imagine yourself selling something and somebody brings you a lowball offer. What do you feel like?
You feel like they don't recognize the value of what you're selling.
Yeah, it's kind of a little
They're
like,
stupid.
oh my God, you think they're stupid, like that, right there. Do you want these sellers to think you're stupid? Do you want these sellers to
Yeah.
think you're insulting them?
Right.
Do you want right? Do you want them to have that kind of an attitude, which is now gonna carry into the transaction?
Yeah.
And it makes it challenging when sellers have an attitude about the buyer, and I've seen more deals fall apart because it started out not on a win-win. And when a seller goes into a deal where they're feeling like they're giving too much, or a buyer is giving too much, they're not happy with each other. They resent each other.
Yeah.
I resent you for making me pay this much for this house. You know what, right? Well, truth is, why are you going into this house? Well, because we love it, but we think we're overpaying. Doesn't sit well with people. Yes, sir.
Would lowball offers be more like considered in a buyer's market?
Sure, absolutely, because the prices are going down,
Mhm.
right, in a buyer's market. And so, yeah, I'm gonna try and,
But Maui's a seller's market right now.
right,
So,
now, well, in under
Aren't
1.5
we
million it is.
slow leaking to a buyer's market? That's what I heard at
Um,
one meeting.
So, we have expected a shift. There has been a shift across the country. As you may have heard from Lisa, the entire region of California and Hawaii for Keller Williams is trending downwards.
Right.
However, the shift is not as dramatic as we thought it was gonna be, and we don't have any inventory.
Right.
We still don't have any inventory. They didn't have inventory, and some places still don't have inventory, but other places now do. right? Cause they build within 2 years, they need inventory and they go back to building, right? But even on the mainland, if you notice the new housing starts, that's always a good stat to watch, right? Those aren't as high as they used to be. So even developers are being cautious. And nobody wants to be in that situation again that happened 10 years ago. What is it,
Right.
2019? 12 years ago, whatever it was, right? So, yeah, it definitely shifted, but I don't see where it's gonna get any relief. People are staying in their houses less. It was 10 years, it's gone down to 8.5 years. So the average loan is now maintained for 8.5 years. A few years ago, it was up to 10. It used to be at 6. People would move every 6 years or only keep their mortgage for 6 years, right? So that means more turnover. There's nowhere to move to. Where are you gonna move? People don't even give up their rentals because there's nowhere to move.
It's crazy.
Yeah, it's.
So, I don't know what it'll give, other than the mainland's activity does ultimately reach us. So, if the mainland goes into a light recession, and we do all the time, right? Californians and people in Texas will suddenly say, let's wait a little bit about buying that house on Maui.
Right.
And so that's what impacts our market,
Okay.
is when they slow down because they're not feeling it quite so much.
So if there's not the inventory available and they're, you know, this is an island, right, there's only limited land, doesn't it make sense that land will then become the next big thing to purchase? If you can't find housing, at least buy land. You can always put a tent on a lot.
No, you can't.
You cannot,
No,
really.
no, you cannot put a tent on.